In October 1988, Mark McCandish, a freelance illustrator, invited Brad Sorensen to an air show. Brad thought it was a good idea, as the air show was the perfect place to look for potential new clients. He accepted the invitation and asked if a client of his could also come, to which Mark said no problem. On the day of the air show, at the Norton Air Force Base, Mark was contacted last minute by a client and couldn't make it. Brad and his client went anyway. At the show, nothing seemed out of the ordinary, except for a hangar at a distance. Curious, Brad's client wanted to go see what was there, and both men proceeded to this secluded place. Once there, Sorensen was shocked by what he saw. Various classified aircraft airframes were on display. Sorensen realized quickly that he was out of place. Most of the people there were high-ranking officials. Not too long after they got there, a general, who seemed to be in charge of the presentation, asked everyone to gather in front of a large curtain. What Brad didn't know at the moment is that his life was about to change forever. When the curtains pulled back, the general revealed to the small group three very unusual crafts that could only be described as flying saucers. There were three of them, and all three were silently hovering a little over a meter off the ground. One of them was open, with its insides exposed to the public. The general called them Alien Reproduction Vehicles, ARV, with the nickname Flux Liner. They didn't look high-tech, aerodynamic, or fast in any way, but as the general explained, the real surprise was how it was powered. The Flux Liner name comes from the propulsion system that uses electro-gravitics and were powered by zero-point energy. Throughout the presentation, more information about how it works were given to the public, and Brad took note of everything. The Flux Liner system is a relatively simple anti-gravity vehicle with enhanced Tesla coil propulsion capabilities. It consists of various components and features that contribute to its functionality. The propulsion system is based on a large capacitor array located at the bottom of the craft, with the smallest version measuring 7.3 meters in diameter. The capacitor plates are angled and decrease in size as they move higher up the stack. There are 48 sections set up in this manner. The craft also contains a central column known as the amplifier section. Positioned at the very center of this column is a large flywheel-like mechanism with a diameter of around 3 meters. Additionally, there is a 62 centimeter wide of wire encircling the crew compartment. This coil is embedded within a clear resin held on by a flange that encapsulates the entire thing. The main compartment where the crew is located is comprised mainly of two parts that are held together by explosive bolts. The crew compartment houses 4 injection seats mounted back to back, which can detach from the rest of the craft in the event of an injection. The crew compartment itself can serve as a re-entry vehicle with parachutes deployed for landing. Perhaps the most cartoony look of the ship is located here, whereas the submarine door and a synthetic vision system inside plastic bubbles protruding from the sphere. Oxygen supply systems are present in the craft to provide breathable air at high altitudes. The control system of the ARV includes a high-voltage potentiometer or rheostat on the right-hand side of the pilot, which regulates power to the main system. On the left hand, a dome-shaped sphere is located and used for steering the ship. Inside the dome, there are sensors made of fiber optics. A laser is used to convey information, which are transmitted over the fiber optics and translated to the capacitors. The dome can be removed accordingly, where the angle of the dome corresponds directly to the angle of the ship. While the ship is made of something like fiberglass, the exterior of the ship is painted with a lead-based paint that gives its goopy, unpolished look. Oddly enough, the Flux Liner resembles many patents based on electrohydrodynamics. One of the most famous is the magneto-hydrodynamic propulsion apparatus from J.F. King Jr., patented on May 30th, 1967. The patent describes a propulsion system based on the Tesla coil, and it looks very similar to the ARV. The saying goes that most of the patents based on this system started appearing after UFO sightings and from allegedly recovered crafts. One could logically speculate that if extreme magnetic fields caused gravitational distortions or generated some kind of lift capability, fusion reactors would have witnessed such events by now. Then again, generating lift may not be its purpose. The central column is the most obscure part of the machine, and no one knows for sure what is inside or what it does. Often, people who had contact with the Flux Liner describe the central column as an anti-gravity generator. The Tesla coil electromagnetic field is used to contain the anti-gravity bubble within the boundaries of the ship and also to rearrange its vector with the use of extreme electrical dischargers. The capacitors fit that purpose. When changing the ship's vector, they discharge large currents into the electromagnetic field to make the ship rotate around the anti-gravity field. Sightings all around the world can confirm the weird ways these ships maneuver. One common report is that the ship rotates in its axis to move forward. A good way to visualize this would be to think in terms of an elevator. Think of the elevator shaft as the anti-gravity column created by the central column. The magnetic field works like gears that move the elevator up and down. Since it can only move in two directions, by discharging electricity to the field, you can rotate the ship. While speculative, the explanation of how the ship works fits with the observed technology. However, other components cannot help but raise questions, such as the synthetic vision system. Though having cameras outside the craft serves as visual system for the pilots, one can speculate that it wouldn't work properly due to the extreme electrical fields around the ship and possible space distortion with anti-gravity. And what about the pilots? What would happen to them inside an extreme Tesla coil field? After all, we're talking about millions of volts, so much so that the exterior of the ship is said to be painted with some sort of lead-based paint to shield the pilots from X-rays, among other types of radiation generated by the intense electromagnetic field. The most pressing issue is by far the most interesting, the energy source. According to Sorensen, the central column was responsible for tapping into the zero-point energy field. In a nutshell, zero-point energy refers to the lowest possible energy state that a physical system can have. In quantum mechanics, even in the total absence of energy, there is still some residual energy inherent in a system due to the fundamental nature of quantum mechanics. While there isn't concrete information on how the central column works and what it's composed of, a number of accounts, including Sorensen, describe the central column using a mixture of noble gases and mercury flowing inside the column, in between copper coils. To this day, no one knows for sure how it works, but Mark spent decades searching and gathering information. He spent years disseminating whatever information he had to the public, but unfortunately, Mark was passed away April 13th, 2021.